Hello everyone, this is Super Comboman, an upcoming release from Adult Swim Games. I think from memory it's being released on the 11th of July. I'm not sure exactly when this video will be going up, but I'm recording it on the evening of the 10th GMT. Adult Swim Games, of course, have had a few popular and or successful releases recently. I myself have done a video on Sound Dodger Plus, which was one of theirs as well. This one is Super Comboman, and it's basically a roaming brawler in a style roughly popularised by things like Double Dragon and Final Fight, but of course this is a modernised take on that. Now, I'm going to mention, for those of you who are regular viewers, that I'm doing post-commentary on this. Normally I would sit and give my views on the game while I'm recording it, but for some reason Bandicam doesn't like recording Super Comboman for more than about 2 minutes, and obviously that's not conducive to doing it live, so I'm doing this and the actual gameplay sections separately, in case you notice any oddness there. So, my views on Super Comboman, because that's what you're here for. Well, either that or listening to the soothing tones of my voice, according to something. I like Super Comboman, but it's not that straightforward. Straight away, you will probably be struck by the style of this game. There's an immediately noticeable visual style to it. And I like this. I like the visual style, I like the fluidity of the animation, I like the feel of playing it. It controls very smoothly. I like the sense of humour. It does have that element of, hey, we're trying to be funny, but it's likeable nonetheless. The gags aren't going to make you laugh out loud, but it's amusing enough, it's pleasant, it's engaging, and I think likeable is a good word to sum it up. That was my overall first impression when I was playing Super Comboman the first couple of times. I found it overall likeable, pleasant, and one of the really striking things about it for me is that it feels like someone has put a lot of love and care and attention into it. It radiates the affection and the attention that its creators have put into it. I'm not saying that most devs don't have that attitude to their games, most do, but it's unusual for it to really radiate from a game in this way. So it plays well for the most part, it feels very smooth and very slick as you're controlling it, with a couple of niggly exceptions. One is the wall jumping. Wall jumping is never a good idea. It very, very rarely works well. It's always a bit finicky and a bit off somehow, and this is no exception. The wall jumping feels awkward, and worse, it feels like busy work. Just something to do besides fighting. The other fiddly complaint I have about the controls is that when you're surrounded by a group of enemies, it's very difficult to turn round. Your main character, Struggles, I don't know why he's called Struggles yet, but that's his name, he doesn't like to turn round in the middle of combat. So if you're fighting someone ahead of you, you've thrown a couple of punches, and someone starts hitting you from behind, you will have a hell of a time getting Struggles to turn round before he gets the crap beaten out of him, which is a serious issue in big group melees. But really, although it is a big problem in those situations, for the most part it's a small niggle. And it wouldn't be enough to put me off the game all by itself. But there are some bigger issues. The biggest one, by far, is balance. And I don't mean the game has been made too hard. Arguably it has. But that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is all the enemies are enormous damage sponges, and Struggles, your guy, is not. Now you might be sitting there saying, well, so your character's weaker than the enemies, that's not unusual. But it's a real problem here, and I'll tell you why. Because you're fighting your way through hordes and hordes of enemies, battles with any more than about 1 or 2 enemies can go on for a few minutes. I mean, yeah, it's only, say, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. It doesn't sound like a lot. And by itself, it wouldn't be. But the fact that you are so susceptible to damage makes this an issue. Even the weakest enemies in the game, the sort of yellow-clad guys, who you'll be seeing a lot of in this video, with yellow helmets, they are the weakest enemies in the game. They're cannon fodder, and even they can take you down in about 10 hits. If you watch my health bar, you'll notice a single hit from one of those guys generally takes my health down by about a tenth. Whereas they can take a lot more punishment than that. I have on many occasions delivered 2 successive combos to one of these guys, and he's walked away from it. Even with some damage bonuses, that happens. And again, these are the weakest enemies. These are the red shirts of this game, and they're that much tougher than your character is. Which makes the battles drag out a bit, but the real crime is that you go down so easily that it means you will be replaying the same sections over and over and over. There are checkpoints, and they're not miles apart, but it can take several minutes to get from one to the next because of this war of attrition that's going on in combat. And it has an archaic life system going. I don't know if it's intentionally a nod to old games or what, but it really doesn't have a place in modern games. The effect it has here is that after you've lost a few lives, you have to start the whole level over from the beginning, and that is just not excusable. There's no justification for that now. The popular YouTuber Northern Lion has remarked on at least a couple of occasions that he thinks one of the reasons Super Meat Boy, despite being an incredibly hard game, didn't put everyone off with its level of frustration was because when you die in that game, you only lose a matter of seconds. It takes you seconds to have another go at what you were trying to beat before. In Super Comboman, you can lose 5 minutes, 10 minutes easily, either when you go back to a checkpoint or, of course, even more so when you're put back to the beginning of the level. And that rapidly becomes frustrating. Well, I say rapidly, of course I mean at great length it becomes frustrating, because you're redoing the same battles over and over, and the battles are, for the most part, fairly samey. Now, those of you who are paying attention on the level select screen may have noticed that I'm not that far into the game. As a matter of principle, I usually like to finish a game, or at least get as close as I can before reviewing it. But I just can't bring myself to play any more of Super Comboman. And I think that I have gained enough experience of what it's like to feel justified in having this view of it. I just can't force myself to play it anymore. And considering I like it, that's a difficult position to be in. And the main problem is this thing with the imbalance between you and the enemies. There are a couple of other niggly problems. It's very glitchy, for instance. None of them are big game-breaking glitches, at least that I've seen. None of them are big screen-filling glitches. But I don't know whether any will happen during the course of this video footage, because I haven't recorded it yet. But you might notice that every now and then an enemy's health bar doesn't decrease when you're hitting them. You might notice that occasionally I'll get stuck in my jump frame of animation, even though I'm standing on a platform. And I've seen the enemies go through the same thing. I've seen them get frozen in mid-air, mid-jump, and just stand there until I walk away and come back and sort of refresh the sprite. In the very beginning tutorial level, you see Super Comboman, who's kind of a comic superhero, who seems to be the idol for our main character here. You're walking along, you see Super Comboman standing ahead of you, and then he charges off, and you go, "Hey, wait, it's Super Comboman! No, he's leaving!" And you run after him, and then you see him again later in the level. The first time I played, Super Comboman was standing there ahead of me, fine, but then he just vanished. He didn't run off, he didn't disappear in a special effect, he just blinked out of existence, as though someone had removed him. And when I replayed that level to try and improve my score, the next time he wasn't even there. So our character was standing there going, "Hey, it's Super Comboman just ahead of us there." And he was saying this to a blank space. There was nothing there. And this kind of thing happens quite a lot. Also, I've seen you collect stickers in this game as just kind of bonus stuff. And I bashed through a wall at one point, picked up a sticker. It was my first sticker, and a bit of dialogue came up from my sentient tool pouch that hangs around my waist. Well, the character's waist, not my waist. That would be creepy. And this dialogue went, when you collect stickers, they appear in, the sticker museum or whatever. And I went through a bit of this and it was fine. And then the last text box was, hey, it's a sticker. Which was clearly meant to be the first text box, but it came at the end. So the game is riddled with these glitches. They're minor, they're not game-breaking. For the most part, they don't affect gameplay at all. But it's the fact that there are so many of them. Even if I only play for 5 minutes, I will see several glitches. And it's aggravating because otherwise the game feels so polished. Setting aside the gameplay imbalance, the visuals, the music, the general fluidity of movement, the design of the combo commands, the responsiveness of the combo commands. If you've played one-on-one fighting games, you might find that sometimes giving commands to perform special moves is unresponsive. Not the case here, they work really well. And that's why it's so baffling and aggravating that the game's just riddled with these graphical glitches, which wouldn't be a big deal by itself, but when you add that to the already frustrating and tedious nature of repeating the same damage spongy sections over and over, it just adds up. It adds up to an experience that doesn't feel very welcoming or enjoyable. There are a couple of other oddities as well. The big one that leaps out at me is you come to these puzzle sections quite a lot. Well, light puzzle sections. It's basically you have to press a button to get out of the room you're in. You're locked in a room, you fight some enemies, you press the button, you move on. But as time goes on, more and more elements are added to these, and you soon come to a point where you can't reach the button because it's behind an electrified fence, and the only way to press it is to smash an enemy through the fence, who will then hit the button with their carcass. Which is fine, except that the attacks you have that knock enemies flying do so very unreliably. An enemy can just be standing there, seemingly minding its own business, and an attack that should send it reeling across the screen doesn't even knock it back a step. It's very hit and miss as to whether this actually works. And this only gets worse. You soon come to puzzles where you not only have to knock enemies to hit a switch, but you have to bounce them off sloped bits of floor to sort of ricochet the enemy round a corner to hit a button. And those, I spend ages just standing in those rooms trying and trying and trying to pull it off. Because not only do you have to get lucky with actually knocking the enemy flying, you have to hit it in such a way, from such an angle, that it will ricochet in the right way and hit the button. And it is just blind luck and endlessly, endlessly tedious. Before I sat down to record this, I asked myself, if I were to choose one phrase to sum up my feeling while playing Super Comboman, what would it be? Because that's what you're left with. You can admire the graphics, the presentation, the sound, the gameplay design, the level design, the control, but what you will be left with 2 years from now, 5 years from now, or in the case of someone like me who's been playing games for over 25 years, what I will be left with 25 years from now, if I remember it at all, is the feeling I had while I was playing. That means that if I remember this specific game, not if I remember 25 years ago. I'm not going to be that old in 25 years. What I will remember is the way I felt while playing the game. So for some games, I have a feeling of happiness, joy, something like Kirby's Adventure gives me that. Or it might be a feeling of trepidation, Silent Hill. It might be a feel of sort of epic scope and grandeur and possibilities, something like Skyrim or Morrowind. The feeling I've been left with while playing Super Comboman, setting aside everything else, just the emotional gut feeling I get while playing it, is tedious chore. If I were to choose one phrase, that's what it would be. Tedious chore. And it's because, primarily, of that fighting problem. The way retreading the same ground, having these long attrition battles over and over, becomes such a slog and such a grind. It's the fighting that's a problem. And when you're playing a fighting game, that's the point. The fighting should be the fun. You shouldn't be trying to get through the fighting as quickly as possible so that you don't have to do it anymore. And that's what I keep finding myself doing with Super Comboman. It's a shame because for a few minutes, for maybe 5, 10 minutes, even 15 minutes, I can enjoy it. But when it gets to the point where I'm losing lives, going back to checkpoints, redoing bits, it gets really, really tedious. Even if I'm not losing lives and having to redo bits, the levels are quite long. By the time I get towards the end of a level, I've had enough. I don't want to be playing it anymore. And that's not a good effect for a form of entertainment, for a form of recreation to have. The only way I can see to mitigate this gameplay balance issue, or at least the only way the player can do so, is the combo shop. I'll try to remember to get some footage of the combo shop in here, or the combo store, as it's called in-game. In there you can buy new combos using the money that you pick up during the levels, which is displayed in the top right in the shop. You can buy new combos, which you then execute with button presses and stick wiggles and things, in the grand old tradition of things like Street Fighter. And you can also buy upgrades. Now, these are passive, but they're not constant. So I've bought, for instance, Double Punch. And you have to equip it. You can only equip 2 at a time. And they're not active all the time. What happens is when you achieve a certain level of combo, then the first of your passive abilities kicks in, and when you achieve the next level of combo, the next one kicks in. Which is quite a nice touch. But the only way I can see to balance the bullet sponginess of the enemies versus your complete lack of sponginess is to get loads of combos and loads of upgrades just to make yourself resilient enough and hit hard enough to get through. As an illustration of how much this is the case, I have the Double Punch upgrade, which means every punch hits twice, and I've picked up there are collectible power-ups during the levels. I picked up one that doubled my damage, and even with those things in my arsenal, I still found that the basic weakest enemies in the game could take a hell of a lot of punishment before they went down. Even with those upgrades and bonuses and pickups, I was delivering whole combos to the enemies, and they were basically shrugging it off. It's a serious problem. And that is why I can't recommend Super Comboman. I want to recommend it. I want to play it. And for a while, maybe I do. I come home and think, hey, yeah, I could play Super Comboman, it's kind of fun. But I know that 10 minutes later, I will not want to be playing it anymore. And that's not a good position to be in. For that reason, I can't recommend this. I can't anti-recommend it either, which is a frustrating position to be in as a reviewer. I can't warn you off it because it's not bad. It has a lot going for it. Great presentation, mostly fluid control, responsive special moves, lots of things, lots of qualities. It's so close to being good. And for someone like me who doesn't play a lot of brawlers, the fact that I enjoyed this game that much, at least for a period of time, should be a glowing endorsement. But it's just absolutely crippled by these other problems, primarily that balance issue. Maybe if you're a big fan of brawlers and you're really accustomed to this type of game and you're very passionate about playing this type of gameplay, you might have more patience for it than I do. You might enjoy slogging through those fights over and over, but I think for the average player, the grind will be too much. And even the solution I've proposed, getting all of the upgrades and all of the combos, involves grind. It means you have to earn the money by being killed off and slogging through and being killed off and slogging through the same areas again until you get enough upgrades and combos to progress. So, I can't recommend Super Comboman, but I also can't tell you not to buy it. Maybe some of you will enjoy it. And I certainly don't regret playing it. I've enjoyed some of my time with it, but some isn't enough to tell you should go out and buy it.
Task start.
Maybe some people will enjoy it, but I can't in good conscience recommend it, at least with its current game balance. So that's my stance on Super Comboman. In the interest of full disclosure, Adult Swim Games sent me a free copy of the game for review purposes, but like 99% of reviewers, that has no impact on my opinion. The game stands or falls on its own merits, and in this case, it neither stands nor falls. It can't decide whether it's on the good or bad side of the fence. It just teeters on the brink, never quite going one way or the other. This has been Super Comboman. As always, thank you for watching. I will put a link below in the description to the place where you can buy this game, should you choose to. So, yes, thanks for watching, and rejoin me next time as I discuss more game-related stuff. Until then, bye for now.